everyone. Welcome to the James Morgan Jazz One-on-One Conversation Series 2026. I have a guest today that'll be joining us all the way from France. Really great guitar player, jazz guitar player. And before we get to him, you can see him on the split screen there. I'm going to tell everybody a little bit about why I'm doing the series. It's really to talk to a lot of seasoned musicians, people that have toured, people that do home recordings, studio recordings, radio, CEO, executives, sound engineers, and just to educate these young upcoming musicians that as the last 5 years especially, but maybe the last 10 years, I've been sitting in their rooms doing lick after lick till they get the perfect riff, then they post it. It goes viral, they make some money. Some of these young guys are making a couple thousand, few $1,000s a month, even more. So there's no real incentive for them to even go out and, play with other musicians, which I think is really important. There's value in that. That's where you find your voice. You learn to improvise. You become part of a community. That's a real, organic human humanness to it. So today my guest from France, he's got a great journey that he's been on musically, his background, and I know that you'll find value in it. And I think you'll find value in all the videos, because these musicians they're imparting not just their wisdom, but by talking about their journey and how they see music and how it affects their lives. You'll see there's so much value in the organic side of music. So to get out of your room and start a band, a lot of these musicians are just known for being TikTok guitar players. They're not known for albums, playing with anybody. Like Matteo Mancuso, he's a great guitar player, but all you know is that he plays Alan Holdsworth songs. He's great, but he doesn't do a lot of his own original stuff. So I think it's important to get out there. So my guest today, I think it's Laurent Medelgi. He'll correct me later on that. He was born and raised in Paris, and I have a brief bio. He'll update us on it. At a young age, he picked up the guitar, and between then and '93, when he moved to New York, I want to find out what happened between that. He ended up recording and co-producing some music. He did participate in a lot of musicals as a guitar player, first chair, that kind of thing. He studied with Mike Stern and Wayne Krantz and did a lot of projects. And then he came out with his debut album in 2022. We'll find out how that happened. And he's got a lot of accolades to his credit. And he's a guitarist, a producer, recording artist, music director. That's one-stop shopping. So without further ado, I want to welcome Laurent to the series. I really appreciate you joining me today, taking the time.
Hey, James, it's great to be here. Yeah, Laurent Medelgi is my name. I know it's a bit of a mouthful for those who have never uttered those syllables, but Medelgi. So my Corsican origins are coming through here. Anyway, it's really a pleasure being here and hopefully sharing some of what I've learned along the way. Moving to New York City at a young age, I was in my very early 20s and building a career out there as a full-time musician in New York City for almost 20 years.
Well, and that's as I mentioned, that's great. But I want to jump back a little farther, if we could. Like when you were at home and you're growing up in France as a child, was there music in your home? Did your parents play music? How did you get exposed to music as a child, as a young man? In school, was it? How did that all happen that made you want to even play guitar?
Well, my parents were both singers. That's how they met, actually. They had the same coach in Paris back in the 60s. And it was, they came from the south of France, both of them. And in order to, pursue their Parisian dream, I want to say,
Yeah.
And so that's how they met. My dad was a very prolific writer, a songwriter, and even got a record deal with back in the day with CBS,
Wow.
records. And so I guess yeah, that was always in my genetic makeup, if you will. But I started playing guitar when I was about 12 years old after I did a summer camp, and I just thought it was so amazing to be able to strum a guitar and sing some songs and have everyone like sing along, and such a good time.
Yeah.
So I learned my first three chords that summer, and I made sure that Christmas coming, I would have a guitar as a gift, And I got a little like glued up guitar together, like a real, real basic, super basic, like secondhand or maybe 10th hand guitar. And I drove my parents nuts playing along to the radio, like day in, day out for hours,
Wow.
until they said, "All right, you want to take some music lessons?" I said, "Yeah." Okay, so that's how it kind of all started. And back then I was, big into rock, heavy rock, hard rock, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, and those bands.
At 12 years old, you were?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14,
Wow.
absolutely.
So you're taking lessons, and I assume these are private lessons that you're taking.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm
are you
taking
learning?
classical guitar lessons, actually.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So they were classical, which is very disciplined. So you learn to read music,
Right.
which unlike me, I play by ear. But so you're learning how to read music,
Yeah.
and when did you transition from taking lessons to maybe either writing your own stuff or starting to play with other musicians?
Well, I kind of dropped out in the classical guitar thing because I met a guy in the summertime. I was on vacation at another guitar player, and I said, let's play blues in E, and he was like, "Oh no, I can't do that." I said, "Why not?" The guy was ripping some beautiful Bach and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, "Oh no, if I don't have a lead sheet, a music sheet, I can't play." I was like, "Holy smoky, I don't want to be that guy." So I dropped that when I came back from that vacation,
Yeah.
and I started, putting together a band. Like, was first one was called Legend, was like some kind of progressive rock,
Doing covers or original music?
original. We're
Oh,
doing
wow.
original. Yeah. Yeah, I started writing songs when I had my first like teenage love. I wrote this girl. I remember recording on a little cassette tape, like a little,
Yeah.
you know, "I'm your friend, I'm here for you" kind of song, and
And for those viewers that don't know what a cassette tape is, because you're that young, it's a little tiny plastic tape that has an actual tape in it that plays the music. Because
exactly.
some people in America that are young don't even know what a phone is. They look at it. So
I know, you're right. You're very, yeah, very. It's a very good point you're making.
so you
But
send this
anyway,
to your girl.
so I sent this to my girl, and she loved it. I had to send the snail mail, and so she gets it in the mailbox, and oh, here's a cassette tape. She plugs it in, and she hears my voice and me playing the guitar to
Nice.
this song that I created for her. And
Yeah.
so that was like one of my first songs that I wrote for anyone. I mean, I always wanted to write music to share. Like,
Yeah.
to me, it's the purpose is to be shared to as many people as possible. And
Yeah.
I think that music, I know that music has this amazing universal power. Wherever you go, you don't have to speak the language or even know the culture or any of that, and you can still get through to people.
Yeah.
So to me, that's
So it's a
pretty amazing.
universal language. So you're playing in these bands. I assume you're playing an electric guitar and probably a solid body guitar, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
And what kind was it? Was it like a Gibson or a Strat
Yeah,
or?
I think my first one was a copy of a Les Paul
Oh,
from a company called Oakland
uh-huh.
from
Yeah.
California, I think.
Yeah.
And I had to work. I had to go out and work all my vacation time. I had to make that money
Yeah.
to buy myself my first electric guitar. I was so proud of it, and yeah, the first of
Nice.
a long
So
series.
so you're so you have your amp and your guitar and you're playing with the band now. Are you playing like garage parties, or are you do you getting in any clubs or anything?
I'm starting to play, at the fair and stuff like that
Yeah.
on big stages. I was like
Wow.
16, I think I did my first gig in front of a few hundred people,
Wow.
and yeah, which was a disaster, of course, but yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta start somewhere, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a band. We had several bands, and we'd rehearse on Sundays in the garage, and then we'd try and get, with the city hall,
Yeah.
whatever, activities they would have going on that we could just, come in and play. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's probably sometimes for free, I would imagine.
Oh, it was always for free.
Yeah.
Always.
And that and to viewers out there again, sometimes I'll even to this day, I don't do a lot of public shows, mostly corporate events, but if I do it, it's because I want to jam a little bit because I can't at an event. It's background music. And one of the joys of going to play is to be able to jam, but they don't pay much. So I even give up my pay for the other guys because that's how they make their living. They don't have other income streams, but it doesn't,
Right.
if you love music, you're not really even thinking about it at that point. So you're playing with this band and then you're playing rock. So how did you transition from the kind of progressive rock and things like that? And was there a guitar player, first of all, that was kind of made an impact on you with the electric guitar first? That
Well, I was a big fan of the big guys like Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, and those guys, and the guys
Van
from,
Halen?
Angus Young, Van Halen, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
All these guys were like, stunning
gods.
players to me, and I was very, admirative of them, admire their playing and everything. But I never was one to want to duplicate any of that.
Yeah.
Um,
You
the
want to find
Eagles,
your own voice.
yeah, I was always trying to find my own voice and use, more, like things that I could hear, even though I couldn't hear much back then. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was really trying to develop things in my own way, let's say, and that's why I composed right away. And
Right.
in those bands I composed. So what happened is I moved to the UK. I moved to Cambridge actually,
Okay.
when I was still a teenager, and I formed a band there. And the UK was completely different, a different experience from France,
Yeah.
because they have this huge background and tradition of great music
Oh
and
yeah.
great musicianship. So I got a band together pretty quickly, and then we started playing out in pubs in London and stuff. And on our first demo, we had Dave Greenfield, the keyboard player from the Stranglers, that played with us. It was very exciting. And the guy called Kevin Flanagan, who was playing sax with the Pink Floyd back in the day, or
Yeah.
just Pink Floyd, not the Pink Floyd. Anyway, it was Pink and it was a Floyd. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that was a great experience. So and that's when I kept going with my rock, new wave, uh, type vibe on the guitar.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I moved to New York that I really got immersed into jazz right away, because I co-produced my first album there with a band called Gotham, and I started writing, horn lines for
Right.
those like groovy, Michael Franks type vibe,
Oh yeah.
for the first record that we did, and so I very quickly realized that I had a lot to learn, and
Mhm.
started taking private lessons in New York,
Oh,
to
okay.
explore jazz, because to
So
me,
did you have to get another guitar? Like, did you get the jazz guitar to take the lessons, or were you still playing on your?
I was still playing. I had a guy in Paris made me like two guitars, like a Strat reissue 57, which I still have, which sounds great. I've
Yeah.
done so many records with this guitar. It's
Yeah.
my go-to pop rock, Strat
Yeah.
guitar. And then he made me a Telecaster. And as I started going to see Mike at the Mike Stern at the 55 bar,
Uh-huh.
where I did my first debut album CD live at the 55 bar in New
Wow.
York. And so I saw, oh, you had a Telecaster. I said, oh, I have one too. So I had it brought from Paris, and I played jazz on that for a long time until I could afford. I think my first like semi hollow
Uh-huh.
archtop was the Epiphone,
Oh yeah,
Uh,
they make great guitars.
yeah, and it sounded really good. And I remember I tried it out in at a salon, at like a show, a guitar show in the East Village. There were hundreds of guitars.
Yeah.
And so I sat there for like 2 hours, having every guitar player come by and say, "Please try this guitar. Please try this guitar." And it sounded great.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I gotta buy this thing. I really have to. So I bought it.
Yeah.
And I played on that thing for like 10 years. It was great. You
Nice.
know, many records. My record Diverses that I did, with violins and cellos and horn section, all that stuff.
Right.
I'm using that Epiphone guitar, and it sounds really good.
Yeah. So you're playing the jazz guitar and you're taking lessons from Mike Stern, who's an iconic musician. And in fact, he's a very good friend of Dean Brown.
Oh
Friend of
yeah,
mine passed away this month, 2 years ago, while we were recording A Soul in Time with Gary Husband and Hadrian. Him and Mike, very good friends, and Mike's wife plays guitar.
yeah, Lenny, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's it's a small world, but he's such an amazing musician, Mike Stern. So I'm sure you're not when you're taking lessons from somebody like that, you're also getting so much other knowledge and insight into the whole that world that he's part of because he's a link to that. So you're playing jazz. How did you just transition completely into jazz at that point?
No. When I first moved to New York, I was playing, pop, rock, blues, whatever I could play.
Yeah.
And still, many years later, I always had other bands. Like, I was in a punk rock
Oh,
band.
oh wow.
I made a deal with them that I would never rehearse, and I never rehearsed with them, not
Yeah.
once. And and they were okay with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Baghdadios was the name, and they were very cool, very fun band, lots high energy.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I did some, Latin music as well. I had a little trio, Latin Amour, I called it.
And
Um,
didn't that band play for like the United Nations or some event?
yeah, totally. We did that for 8 years in a row, as a matter of fact, for the
Wow.
the big reception for the U.S. mission invites the 120 host countries of the
Wow.
UN. And yeah, we had the Haitian delegation. They were grooving. I had it was great. I had a great percussionist from Canada actually, Mario Monaco, not to name it. A great guy, was working a lot with the Cirque du Soleil over there,
Oh, wow.
and so it showed up with just tambourines and not even congas, nothing. I was
Just
like, man.
percussion. Yeah.
And then he'd whack his head with the
Yeah,
staff,
yeah.
and we were cracking up. And I mean, we had the head of the FBI, we had the head commissioner of the police force and stuff. But everybody was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a very very nice event in terms of it was very high end officials, but very
Yeah.
chill, very low key, very kind of informal in a way.
Yeah. So where are you living? Are you living in a part of New York where a lot of musicians live, or are you having to travel to where all the action is? What was that like? Were you able to go to clubs and see? Did you go out to clubs and see a lot of musicians? And what were some of the clubs you would go to if you did?
Okay, so I lived in Chelsea most of those years, almost
Okay.
for 20 years, between 14th and 21st Street, which means I could go to Times Square in 10 minutes, and I could walk down to the Village Vanguard in 10 minutes as well, not even. So my schedule was basically Friday night, Saturday night, I would leave New York outside and just watch a movie at home.
Yeah.
And I'd go
Right.
out every other night, like the
Wow.
whole night, like Sunday through Thursday. I was out checking out music. And 55, there was a Fat Cat back in the day. I think it's called Fat Tuesdays now.
Mhm.
And there was Sweet Basil. There was a lot of places down Seventh Avenue that I could just walk to. So
Right.
Smalls, of course, where I did a live record also there.
Well, a
And
lot of those places are gone.
yeah, some of them are gone, but there's some new ones now. And
Yeah.
yeah, my location was just
So
outstanding.
you were exposed to a lot of jazz, a lot of music, different kinds of music, probably. And
Yeah,
again, for those viewers that are younger that don't go out, it's really a lot. You learn a lot, and it's a lot of fun. I know also too, you can find opportunities as a musician when you're going out and doing that, because you may see somebody that you know that knows somebody in the band, and then they find out you're play this particular instrument, and then they say, hey, would you like to sub and that kind of thing. Because I know, talking to Gary, husband, he told me that when he was living at a certain, when McLaughlin would come to London, he would always go see him and kind of try to be known, like always try to be within his eye thing, and talk to people that he was playing with, because he wanted to get his attention, so he could, because he wanted to play with him. So there's it, you can use going to clubs as a musician. It can also open doors for you too. It's not just about going out and having a drink and
well, it's definitely a place to network, and I would always bump into other musicians there. And it's very refreshing, and and we keep each other up to date on what's going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes there'll be opportunities, or maybe there's a funk band, they're looking for a guitar player, I'll give you their number, whatever. And so the networking part was definitely a thing, but the main thing for me is to have a chance to be exposed to such amazing talent.
Yeah.
And coming from Europe and stuff, and France, which is not really well known back then, 25, 30 years ago, it wasn't there wasn't much music coming out of France at all. I mean, it's changed a lot, they only incorporated a jazz department in music schools here in 2006. So it's very recent, and now we have amazing players, of course, Adrien Ferro is one of them. So
you're kind of you were kind of a big fish in a small pond in a way.
I don't know about that, but let's say that being exposed right away to all that various music, from like blues to R&B and funk and jazz and everything in between, rock. I used to see a lot of rock in East Village as well. That was really a great experience for me, very enriching. And when I started playing on Broadway, I learned that.
And how did that happen? How did you get even introduced to playing on Broadway?
Well, listen, I had never done a workshop or anything like that. I had no idea what musical theater was about. And I was doing this cabaret thing with singers from Broadway that were on Broadway shows, as I was doing every week on a Monday night. I was doing that. And the bass player just recommended me to the guitarist in Rent, Kenny Brusher. Great guy, super
huge
guy.
Play,
yeah, and very cool player, very, very, very accurate. And he asked me, he said, and he recommended me and said, he said, you want to play the show? I said, yeah, sure. I had no idea what it entailed, right? I was clueless. But he was so nice to me. He showed me the parts, he showed me the fingerings that he used, and he was very nice to me. And I went, my first show, I was on stage. Sold out show, of course, Saturday night. You have the light in your face. You have your 3-4 guitars. You got to read the music. You got to watch the musical director. And I was doing breathing exercises not to faint. It was so intense, And I was just like, all right, you got this? No, I don't. Okay, well, whatever. You gotta make it look like you do, And I remember on one tune, it was towards the end of the tune, I got lost at the top of the last page, and I knew I had to blow on that tune, right?
Oh.
And I thought, oh, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go all out. And I played the crazy solo like a Batman. And then the music said, you're only supposed to play like a solo for the last 8 bars. I said, oh, yeah, well, I was just feeling it, And the drummer came to me and said, that was crazy, that solo you did. That was great. Because, a little change when you're on Broadway doing 8 shows a week is refreshing, and it's something you enjoy. But,
so how long did you do that particular?
That show? I only did it like a couple of times, obviously, because I had zero experience. But then I went on to the other shows, and I worked on until I left New York. I was subbing on a number of shows,
And to do that kind of a show, I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to be a fast reader or a good reader of music.
Well, you have time to prepare. you don't
Yeah,
particularly, you
but
need to read some,
right.
but you don't have to be a sight reader by any
Yeah,
means.
yeah,
You're gonna get time. I mean, I'd like to be over prepared because I know what happens
right.
when you're on stage
Yeah,
and the adrenaline kicks in and the nerves and
yeah.
all that stuff.
But that must
So
have been a good training ground for you, just being on stage and learning to deal with the nerves and be around that energy of all those people and all that. I mean, that's a great experience. That's got to give you a lot of validation as a musician, as an artist, and as a person, really, because you're in this situation that probably a lot of people would are striving to be in, and you just happen to
yeah, I
fall
fell
into it.
into it. It was never a goal of mine. Some people have that for a
Yeah,
goal, for lifelong
yeah,
goal as a musician, but not me.
yeah,
But I learned a lot, and I learned about accuracy and being extremely detailed and intention.
yeah,
And also, I learned to like basically just to be a copycat, like because when you replace the guy whose chair it is, you have to sound kind of like him,
yeah,
because people are used to how he's playing.
right.
So that's very, very hard to do on a guitar. Okay.
Yeah,
We all have our own little, quirks and
sure.
our signature sound and
Yeah.
playing. So I learned that. And I would say the most important thing I learned is to forgive myself because
Mm,
mistakes are going to be made. And if you
yeah,
dwell on them and you're in the middle of the show, you're going to make more mistakes.
right. And
So
that's also applies to life too. So
right, exactly. You make a mistake, you have to forgive yourself right away and keep playing the song and
yeah,
stay in the moment and give your best.
right.
And nobody's gonna blame you if you make a mistake or two or three.
Yeah.
But if you don't play with the sincerity that is
The
required,
attention. Yeah.
they're not going to feel good, and
Mm,
that's a much bigger problem than
yeah.
having a slam here or there, or
Right.
having a wrong bum note here and there that
Yeah.
nobody knows except you,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you know how to cover it up. But
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that
Well,
the
it was Miles Davis that said it's the wrong there is no wrong note. It's the most important note is the note you hit after you hit the wrong note to
right,
get
right.
out of
There's no wrong note. There's only poor choices.
it. Yeah, yeah, there you go. But also too, you have all those people focused that are paying money and to see this show, and
Yeah.
it's real. You have to fulfill that thing uh, that they want to feel, and that's the play is trying to um, transmit to the audience. You have to have an understanding of that, what that is completely too in your mind, and then channel that through your body and push your mind away and all the others doubt and all that stuff and focus on that intention to give that message to those people. That's a hard job. I can see why you'd be stressed.
Yeah, it is very stressful, but it's a great school because, while I was doing that, I was also doing all my jazz stuff and other music as well. And so I could get much more freedom in my jazz thing. And it helped both
Yeah,
ways because being super, super accurate and detailed, and then having all the freedom in the world when you're playing a standard to reharmonize or whatever it is you want to do, well, then now you're going to be a lot more picky about what you want to say. And I
yeah,
think that's really great if you're a musician to know what you're going to say,
right,
and
right.
mean it and just
Yeah,
mean it, and not throw out licks after licks, that Bert played like 60, 70 years ago, which,
yeah,
is fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm
yeah,
just saying it's great when you have your own voice and you can play what you hear on the inside.
yes.
So those experiences also, one thing I learned is where does the guitar fit in a
Mm,
23-piece ensemble?
right.
Sometimes I had guitar sections. There were three guitars playing at the same time, and none of them played the same parts, and it all worked beautiful together. So, you have some of the best orchestrators and arrangers in the world
Right.
that work on the shows, and so you get a chance to play parts that have been created by super talented people, and that's something I really enjoy.
Yeah. So what kind of guitar were you playing? Was it a acoustic or jazz
Oh,
guitar?
I had tons of guitar. I would play the guitars that the guy would play,
Oh,
so you have the same sound. But then
oh,
I
wow.
got my own shows. I would bring my own guitar.
Right. So
Sometimes.
that's even tougher because you're having to, but you still, and plus, and you're trying not to transmit your sound, like you said, your signature sound, plus you're playing on their instruments. It brings to mind a story that Dean told me, Dean Brown. He was playing at a club, popular one, Vortex or something like that, a Lithium, I can't think of the name. And he was playing with his Strat. They were playing Fusion, and George Benson walked in and sat in the front row of the club and was watching them. And during one of the breaks in between, the I think it was one of the Becker brothers invited him up to play, and maybe it was Michael. And but he didn't have his guitar with him, so he
Right.
took Dean's Strat
Uh-huh. Wow.
and Dean's gear, and
Yeah.
Dean said within two less than a minute he did the dials, and when he played, it sounded just like he was playing a George Benson guitar. The guy to get his sound, and
Right.
that's it's when you have your sound, you have your sound. But for you, it's I'm seeing that as kind of not a struggle, but you're really trying to hold back your sound. You're trying to play to the song, and you're trying to play to the guy that you're covering for. So I could see why I mean I wouldn't want to sub like that myself. That would be hard because you want to play your own stuff, you want to
Yeah. But I mean, all those guitarists that I played for were stunning musicians, right? And
yeah,
so sometimes they would come up with their own parts for such and such songs. So you get in their heads, and a lot of licks and a lot of
right.
concepts that you can
Uh-huh.
get for your own playing. Like,
Right.
for example, when Jersey Boys, it was Joe Payne, was a guy from San Diego, who was really skilled at playing country music, right? So all those country licks, I
Yeah,
learned from him, and it was fantastic because I had no idea how to play that in the first place. And so
right,
you get that from the source for people that are working musicians
right.
and respected and very effective, and they know the format. And so I learned so much from that. It was difficult, yes, for sure,
Yeah,
but to be a chameleon like that is a job in itself, but
yeah,
at the same time it was fantastic to see how people are approaching such and such groove or harmony, or you
right.
know
Yeah,
and it's very cool. It's very cool.
yeah,
I would do it again. I would definitely do it again, but I also enjoyed having my own shows, and when I had my own shows I could incorporate a lot of what I had gathered over the years on those different shows,
yeah,
and put that in the book that I was serving at that time.
right.
And so that was really cool, you know.
Yeah. So you're doing that and you're playing and you're now how many albums? I think what do you have like 8 albums out or
I think I have about 9 albums
nine?
probably now.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
quite a few. And again, viewers, I'll be putting links underneath that you can explore his music. And then you're in France now. Did you
yep.
ever did you ever want to go to like a lot of people do, especially in the East Coast, from Michigan and Detroit and Chicago? They all want to go to LA. Did you ever do the Los Angeles music scene at all?
So yeah, I went out to LA on a few occasions because I worked on some movie soundtracks with some friends of mine,
Yeah,
script writer and producers. And so, yeah, I went out and, I have friends in Temecula in the Valley, and I have some friends in LA as well,
yeah,
in the movie business too, and in the musical theater business as well.
right.
So, yeah, I went out and played a few times. I found it very different. The energy is very different from
Yes,
New York and the East Coast, generally speaking. But New York being itself one of a kind,
yeah,
there's nothing close to it anywhere in the States, I don't think.
no,
So LA was very interesting in the way that I feel that the climate affects everything.
yes,
When you have clement weather like you do,
Mm.
in California most of the year, I
Yeah.
think it affects the music as well that you
Yeah.
want to write and the mood that you want to be in, and
Right.
the emotions that you want to convey. Um, and so, yeah, it was different, and I like that. I love that. You know, I remember sitting in on the in a big, it was like a big like lounge thing. Um, can't remember where it was now, but anyway, and this I said, oh, let's play a tune, and I said, oh, let's play. I don't know what it was. I think it was My Favorite Things.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason, I started playing in five, and so and I didn't tell the guys. It just came out like that. And so they're looking at me. The bass player's looking at me. He's like, "Oh, you want to play in five?" I'm like, yeah, let's just play. And so we played the whole tune in five, and it was kind of fun. But they weren't expecting that at all.
Right.
It
Right.
was I, by the way, but
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
but
That was
it's
good. It was good pot. No, I'm just kidding.
oh
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I,
Well,
I would love to come back and play more in California. Now that I've done other things, I was in China last year. I did a live in Shanghai album as well,
right.
and so I was in Texas a few months prior to that
Yeah.
with a big band with Chad LB on sax, and it was fun. It was fun. I love coming out. I love playing in different contexts and situations
Yeah.
throughout the world, and seeing how we can connect with musicians.
Yeah. Well, New York has I think it's probably it is a community kind of thing. And I know back in the day in the 90s, even the 80s, really, there was a thing called the register or the registry. And your phone, they would call you, you would submit your name, what you could do to this registry. And if there was studio work that needed to be done, they would call you and say, hey, get to the studio at 7 a.m. and you'd work from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. and you'd play with 20 or 30 different musicians
Wow.
without, and just because you had to read, obviously. And that's how Marcus Miller made a lot of his money, and Dean and a lot of the Mike Stern, all those guys were all part of that thing. But in LA, it's more of you were called a session musician. And I
Right.
talked to Niels, you were talking about the climate produces certain music. Niels who's been on the top charts for decades, years. He had a song that he wrote called Pacific Coast Highway, which is a smooth jazz song. And to this day, it's the most, it's no song has had more spins on radio than that song ever. And no one will catch up now because of the way the music is these days.
Oh wow, yeah, for sure.
So I think it's at 35 plus million
Oh my goodness, that's
plays
wild.
on radio,
Yeah.
and it's called Pacific Coast Highway. So here's a guy from Germany, like you coming from France, coming to LA, that didn't even speak English very well, had that going against him, did session work. He ended up writing a song that George Benson wanted to write to put on his album, but the label wouldn't let him. So he had Niels help him with one of his songs, met him in a hotel room, took him to the hotel room after lunch, and started working with him and became a session musician with his own albums. And of course, now he's one of the iconic, staples in Los Angeles. But it was very different when you hear from how I talked to musicians doing the series that were New York based and Europe based, and then LA based. They're totally different. It's like oil and vinegar. So I can see why some musicians that come from New York, they come to LA, they don't like the music scene. They go back to New York because they like it,
Right.
and vice versa. So
Well, yeah, there's
I
definitely
know.
an intensity in New York that is hard to find elsewhere. I think even although Paris has become a lot of that in lately in the last few years, it's become a real hub of creativity and attractiveness for people from all over Europe come to Paris now to just play
Yeah,
jazz,
yeah,
which I found very interesting because that wasn't never the case like 20
right.
years ago.
So does
So
that produce more opportunity for you in any way? that people are
Not really.
uh,
No. Well, I mean, here's the deal. I mean, you have those, youngsters that come out of, the conservatoire and they sound amazing,
yeah,
technically speaking, right?
right.
And they're willing to just play for free for a beer and a sandwich.
Uh-huh.
So, if you're a bar owner, a restaurant owner, a club owner, even you're gonna, and they bring all their friends.
Right.
So the register is full. They're all drinking, spending money,
Yeah.
and so it makes it actually, I think, harder to get good paying gigs
Yeah.
and treated fairly as a working musician here.
Right.
France has never been one to recognize per se the status of working musician.
Not like London or Ireland and places like
Yeah,
that.
I mean they have this, I think, idea that work means suffering. So
Uh,
you're taking pleasure in enjoying your work, then it
right.
can't be work. It's got to
Yeah.
be, I don't know, a hobby, maybe your passion.
Yeah.
But no, you mean you're making money with that and you're having fun and enjoying that? No,
Well,
that's
for you living in France, and of course you're able to. I think you have dual citizenship, maybe, probably.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so depending on where you're at musically, would it be if you decided you wanted to play more and maybe income stream, but just play more, would it be more advantageous for you to be in New York, or
So
do you
yeah,
have a good
I think
balance?
last time I went on tour in New York about, I think, a year ago, 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago. I did a bunch of clubs and stuff, and I found that New York had really changed a lot, and not for the better, unfortunately. Prices have skyrocketed, and a lot of clubs have closed down, and that that East Village vibe, that looseness
Yeah,
and very brotherly vibe was kind of gone for me, and it's kind of sad, really. And so I think if I were to come back to the States, I wouldn't go to New York. I wouldn't live there, unless I have like a chair on the show or something
or
that
you're
would.
part of a tour, or you're
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
If I'm on
yeah,
tour, of course. But I enjoyed Nashville. I cut a record with guys like Keith Carlock and others, Brian Allen on bass.
yeah.
In Nashville, my friend Wes Little, who's an amazing drummer and musician all around. He has a beautiful
Well,
studio there, and
you, yeah, but you mentioned Shanghai. How did that album happen in that whole thing?
oh, well, well, it was a reunion tour because the a bass player, upright bass player that I used to play with in New York for hundreds of dates, moved to Shanghai about 15 years ago, and
Uh,
we hadn't seen each other since. And so I was just excited to play with him again, and especially in such a different, it's like a different
yeah,
planet. It's
yeah,
it's nothing like we know as Westerners, nothing at
right.
all. It's a different world, and it's fascinating that way. But there is a definite, very strong attractiveness for jazz and things that are exotic that don't come from China. They don't have YouTube, they don't have Google, they don't have any of that stuff.
Right,
So they're very keen on discovering, hearing new things,
right.
and it was great. It was a lot of fun. So my friend Danny Zanker, not to name him, who's a great upright bass player, plays with a lot of American cats that come out there because he's got the chops and he's a super
Right.
nice guy. So
Yeah, yeah.
what do you want? And he speaks Chinese too. Now,
Well, there you go.
there's a family there.
He can order for you when you're out.
You can order, and you can make sure you don't eat anything weird.
Yeah, that's alive. Yeah.
Like whatever beast they put in that soup. What is that? Oh, I don't want
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
it. Stick with the fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how it happened, and we got reunited, and it was obviously we had a lot to catch up on. 15 years, especially him being in Shanghai and explaining to me like the whole Chinese ways and
Yeah.
the customs are very different from what we're used to. And
Do they have Chinese jazz players over there?
oh
Is
yeah,
there
yeah.
is
Well,
there a jazz thing?
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
There's many jazz clubs, you know, medium size, I want to say, and
Uh,
a lot of young people go out listening to jazz. They love it.
wow.
And I played with a tenor saxophonist from China who did Berkeley School of Music. So he had
Uh,
this, very American,
yeah.
jazz
Approach. Yeah.
thing, vocabulary,
Yeah.
vibe, and a phenomenal player, very lyrical. Like he brings more to the instrument because of his, Asian roots.
Yeah.
And I had a blast playing with this guy. Very much,
Yeah.
very expressive. And I'm gonna release this year EP that I recorded in the studio with him in Shanghai.
Oh, nice.
I have a live in Shanghai that's on my site, zorojazz.com, with
Right.
one R, that you could download for free for the next
Yeah.
2 days. It's a special. So please go ahead and get that. And that's with Danny and another American tenor sax player called Mike Hirsch.
Okay, but
Um,
just to interrupt, this video when it comes out won't come out for a while. So when it comes out, I'll let you know when it's coming out, and then you can do the special. So when you say for 2 days the special's happening, it'll happen at that time. Yeah.
okay, yeah. We'll put it back up for free for
Because
when
it's
it
going to
comes
be,
out.
I think yours airs in either March or April. I can't remember.
Okay, perfect,
You're
perfect.
number 13 right now.
I'm number 13. Okay, cool. Just put me in between two big names. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that's how it happened, and it was fantastic. I'm talking right now, and I think I have a call in a little bit. Oh, we have time with Morocco, Marrakesh. They have a fantastic recording studio there, 1,800 square feet of
Wow.
top gear, and they have a complete resort, spa, hotel, very
Nice.
high end, and so they want me to come out and do my next record there. So
Nice.
I think I might just do that, and the next
Good.
one will be with organ and drums,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
explore the
Yeah,
sound.
one of the things too that I like about your playing is that when you're talking about the sax player, a lot of jazz players play a lot of, in my mind, and I'm not a jazz player. I never considered myself one because I played jazz rock up till I got into the contemporary smooth jazz, and I did that to get work, to make money, doing events. But as when I listen to jazz players, the players that I like Romain Pilon and Tom Ohlendorf and people like that, I love that kind of jazz, and the way you play is very lyrical. A lot of these jazz players that I hear that are really popular too, they all sound the same to me. I have to look and see what their name is because they're just all doing kind of the same kind of a jazz,
Yeah.
dry tone sound. But one of the things I like about your playing, it's very, when you start a solo, especially, you don't just do a barrage of notes to show people that you can do this or that. Melodic minor scales and all these things. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It takes you somewhere. It's like following a movie almost, a little mini movie, and then it goes back in. So it's very refreshing, your style, which I really like that.
Well,
Uh,
thanks, James. I appreciate that coming from you, especially. But it's true that to me, melody is the queen of music.
yeah,
And if you can't have any melody in your solo, and once it's over, nobody can remember a single riff you've played, to me, you failed. You
yeah,
failed at everything.
yeah.
And one time I have this song called Flannery's, which is a beautiful ballad, and I recorded it. And then I wanted to have this singer come in and sing to it. I wrote some lyrics, and so I sent him the recording of the tune, which is instrumental. And for the intro, I'm doing a little blowing, a little,
Yeah.
chorusing. Some, and so the guy comes in and he had memorized that, and he
Ah,
sang along the entire intro chorus that I did, and I was like
wow. Wow.
so impressed. I was like, man,
Yeah.
and he said, no, it's easy because it's so melodic.
Right. Yeah.
And so he could just sing it and memorize it because it made sense to him musically.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's very, very cool. So now when I listen to myself, I'm wondering, what would a sax player sound like playing what I play?
Hmm.
Would it be cool or would it be like, well,
Right.
whatever?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I
Well,
like to incorporate that in my
I
playing.
I think some musicians they noodle, they call it. And then to me, I always look for phrasing when I listen to somebody. I love good phrasing. That to me, that's the most important thing. And it shows that you're, really saying something. It's like when you speak, when someone speaks well, like in America, we're very lazy with our language, We say we're going to go somewhere, we just say we're gonna go somewhere. It's
Right,
not
right.
going to go somewhere. So, but same thing with music. I think it's kind of lazy myself to just do a barrage of notes just to show that you can do a bunch of notes or you can sweep pick a bunch of notes quick. And that's amazing that you can do that. But to me, they lose me right away. And one of the
Mm.
things, again, that I like about your playing and Tom's and Romaine and a couple other people is that it always kind of keeps my attention because it's going somewhere. Now, a lot of musicians that are touring musicians, um, when they're touring, they're doing sound checks. They play 3 hours at night, then they got to travel to the next place and all that. They don't have time to practice their routine they would do at home. Do you, at this point in your career, because I know when we're young, we play like 6, 7 hours a day because we can, because we're living at home and
Right.
but when life happens, you have family and this and responsibilities. Do you have a practice routine that you do when you're at home
Yeah,
now?
for sure. Yeah, I would say I do an average of like 3 hours a day. You know,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think any more time than this is productive. But
And do you practice like scales, or do you practice on things like an idea you'll come up with, or maybe towards a song, or mix it
um,
up?
I practice standards a lot. I listen to if I take a standard, I listen to like three, four, five different versions of a standard, and maybe pick up some licks from such and such player. Usually
Right.
sax players. I don't
Uh-huh.
really listen to the guitar players, except
Right.
Wes Montgomery, maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and George Benson, of course.
Right.
But yeah, so no, I work on standards and I work on concepts, like maybe
Uh-huh.
specific
Keep your
concepts of
mind working.
yeah of substitution. I write them down. Of course, I
Hmm.
forget them, so I have to get back to them,
Yeah.
and I work on yeah, memorizing standards and melodies, and
Yeah.
if I'm composing, then that's not part of the routine. That's just
And
I
you
take.
play a jazz guitar, hollow, semi hollow body, right?
Yeah, I have a 135 Gibson. You know,
Okay. And then what kind of strings what's your gear like that your favorite
so
gear
yeah,
right now?
I found out. I found the NYXL, the Dario strings,
Uh-huh.
a couple of years back that I really love. But recently I was in London. I was playing with a singer in London, and they didn't have those. So I
Mm.
switched to Elixir strings,
Yeah.
and I found them fabulous. I mean,
Yeah.
they're amazing. They have a lot of grain. They're warm, but not too warm, and
Uh-huh.
they have an acoustic sound that is new to me, and I really enjoy that. So I think I'm gonna stick with those for a while. The
And those
Elixir.
are those are flat wound, right?
Yeah, but I switched the G because I like my plain G,
Oh, okay.
and so yeah, that's my that's one of my next mission is to find the right G, maybe a Dean Markley string or something
Uh-huh.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
For
use Tomasic. Yeah, I'm sure you know
yeah,
Tomasic.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, those are good. Apparently, I've never tried those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had them where I haven't had to change them for a year,
Oh wow.
and they sound better the older they get, which is weird. They don't go
Really?
flat.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I recorded my last three. All my recordings are recorded live. I don't do studio, piecemeal. I play the rhythm, go right into the solo, but all my last two singles that came out, Frequency of Love and Live Love, are strings. I haven't changed them in a year. And then the
Wow.
new single that's coming out January 30th, West Coast Smooth. which is kind of a West Montgomery kind of vibe to it. I'm going to be using it on that unless the strings break. But yeah, they have a great sound. I really like them. But a lot of people don't know. Well, maybe guitar players do, but all those little things contribute to your sound, how you touch the guitar, if you have calluses or don't. Like, for instance, George Benson doesn't have a callus on any fingers because when he was playing, they turned their amps up so loud they had to play light. So he never had developed soft as a baby's behind, just, no callus. And then the pick, I remember when I was taking lessons from Bill Connors, he used to play with Return to Forever. When I was in my late teens, he had me make a pick out of a coconut shell. So I had to take a curved coconut shell, make it flat, make it a certain thickness, and because he was teaching me to bow the string instead of picking it, because that way your pick never leaves the string, and so there's no space. And I was like, so I would learn to bow it with this coconut shell. And to this day, if I've had it where I forgot a pick at home, drove to a gig, and I'll drive all the way back home to get that pick because I have it a certain shape. I have razor blade there so it doesn't slip, certain strings. I think when you have to, there's so much to playing guitar, as you know. It's not just the instrument. And I think it's one of the hardest ones, whereas keyboards is very easy. Everything's just laid out for you. Guitar is very different. And then you have your amp you got to deal with. Then if you have pedals and you have to use them correctly and experiment, and the strings, and
yeah,
it's a lot to get that sound that you were talking about earlier, where you have your sound. Now, if you could, do you do? I know you've done studio work, obviously. Do you have a home studio that you have?
Yeah. I do remote tracks all the time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the new, everyone has home studios now, especially since COVID. So you can do things remote. I recorded a Soul in Time that was remote. They were in London, and Adrian was on the road.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had a choice, had to choose one, do you prefer performing live, or do you prefer in the studio?
Oh, it's very different. I love this. I love studio work because I love to explore various things. And I write songs and I produce songs for other people as well. So when I do all the instruments, I like to. It's great. It's a very creative process,
Yeah.
and it's also a thing of. It's like a natural flow thing for me. I'm not trying to get in the way of things. I'm trying to just embrace the
Right.
artist's vision. So
Yeah.
a lot of the time we sit for hours, we talk about, tell me about your life, what are you doing? And I try to get a feel for the person. So
Right.
then I can write a song that's going to fit them like a glove.
Right.
And
Is it
so,
they
yeah,
did it? Yeah.
yeah. So the studio is one, it's very different from being live. I
Yeah.
love playing live too, because the audience and what you get back, and also the interaction with the band members. To me,
Right.
that's crucial. That's
Yeah, because you're in the moment playing live, and it could be a train wreck or it could be really good, and you could take risks. And if you take risks and the other players feel where you're going, and you take a risk and they follow you and they support you, it's like it's a magical thing. If you're having a magic moment and they're there with you, there's nothing like that feeling.
absolutely, yeah. And the
Yeah.
interaction is fantastic, and the question and answer also. And people that do, to me, it's happened to me several times that in a trio setting, for example, um, in a loud restaurant, and I'm playing my tunes because I always sneak in my originals, and
Right.
all of a sudden I don't even hear the rhythm section anymore,
Uh,
because what they're playing is so on point to the tune that it opens up the
yeah.
soundscape for me, and I play stuff that I don't even know I can play.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
they make you feel like so comfortable. It's just fantastic, and that's the magic of playing with other musicians. Like you were talking about the TikTok guitar players and the
Hmm. They're
Instagrams.
missing all that. Yeah.
it's so very impersonal in a way. It's so that
Well,
screen takes away so much of the life to me, in my opinion.
the
When
the human part of it.
yeah, when you're in person,
Yeah.
you know, just raise an eyebrow, and it's a whole. You've said a whole thing, a whole. You've said a whole book
Right.
just by one sign.
Yeah.
Some people. It's apparently a known fact that 80% of our communication is non-verbal.
Oh yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
So that
and what
yeah.
is your creative process when you're writing? Do you just have an idea? Do you work off rhythm? Do you work off chords and put a melody? Does a melody come to mind? Do you have a certain process that you use when you're writing music
I
of
don't
your
have a
own stuff?
I don't have one particular way.
Okay.
Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with a melody, like a
Mhm.
melody wakes me up, and I grab the phone and I record it, and I
Right.
say, I don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just pick up the guitar. Usually I pick up the guitar, things come out
Yeah.
that I like, some that I don't like, some that I don't want to hold on to, and some that I do. And
Right.
if that's the case, then I will look into it. I will usually find a motive, whether it's melodic or harmonic, and
Hmm.
I will just dig into that and
Right.
maybe make a song out of it.
Explore it. Yeah. Yeah. And see what comes out of it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, if getting towards the end of our conversation, I wanted to ask you if you could play with any musician, alive or dead, or even just meet a musician, who would that be? Or you can have one or two or three, but who would you love to have played with, or alive or dead?
Okay, well, I mean, probably Michael Brecker would have been a fantastic player to
Yeah,
exchange with,
good choice. Yeah.
definitely. And then there's so many others. Like, I'd love to play with Herbie Hancock.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I love his playing. Brad Mehldau is another great. I love piano players and I love horn players.
Well,
You know,
George Duke was great too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm a lot more picky with my guitar players, but there's a few that I really, really
Yeah.
enjoy listening to. Um, but I would love to like tour with Sting, for example, because I think
There
he's a
you
great
go.
songwriter. I
That's
love
not
great.
that's not a lofty goal.
No. Well, I have a lot of friends that have done that with him that I've played with,
Yeah,
so it's not that as remote as it may sound, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And if you could have any, if you weren't doing what you do now, if you weren't a musician, which you've been your whole life basically, and that's really what music is, again, to these young viewers, young people that may catch this video, it's a life style. It determines.
right.
I often tell people music saved me as a person. Uh, I
Yeah.
I don't know where my life would have been without it, and I think it helped me in a lot of situations. And it was for me. It was originally as a sanctuary to get away from a lot of chaos in my earlier childhood. That was a lot of upheaval and turmoil. And so it was something that I could go to and create my own world with. And eventually I learned that I could share that world with other people, which is nice. But everyone gets into music for a different reason. But it is a life. It just becomes your life. And even if you have other careers you do, other things you do in life, it's always that root thing. Now, if you could choose a profession, if you weren't a musician, uh, it could be a fantasy or whatever. Like I asked Gary Husband, he said he'd like to be a Grand Prix Formula One driver. So, what profession would you think would have done if you weren't a musician?
Well, it's a very tricky question because music saved my life,
Yeah,
and besides the absolute unwavering determination and dedication that I've had to embrace throughout the decades that I've been doing it. Um, it's very difficult to think of another, so to speak, job,
yeah,
that I would be able to get as much, passion.
yeah.
I would probably just do anything that maybe can bring me a lot of money quickly, so I could go back to doing music.
Win the lotto. Yeah,
Yeah, oh, or do something with real estate development or,
Ah, okay.
whatever,
Yeah.
diamonds or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if you have a business mind too, like I often tell people I don't consider myself a great guitarist or composer or even musician. Really, I'm just a musician, but I'm really good at marketing. And because I'm good at marketing, I came out of obscurity 5 years ago, basically, and now I've won awards and played for some of the top people in the world because I know how to market myself. That's that's what it is. I think most musicians, and this is my belief, especially jazz musicians and people that are accomplished like you are at what you do, are intelligent people, innately intelligent. And the reason I think it saves our lives is because if we're creative, and if we don't have something to apply our creativity to and our intelligence, it can get us in trouble otherwise in ways
Right,
that aren't healthy for us. And I think
right,
that's how it saved my life because I'm able to constantly put my creativity and intelligence into the music, and then it keeps me away from the things that could get me in trouble in life, create
right.
hardship or suffering. So, like you
Yeah,
said, it can
yeah,
save your life.
yeah, absolutely. I believe that for sure. And I think that some people are more maybe sensitive to emotions than others. And I think that having an outlet, like letting that out in the form of a piece of art, whether
Yeah,
it's music or other,
yeah,
I think it's great. It's a lifesaver, for
yeah,
many people
yeah,
that may otherwise fall into depression or even more, you
yeah.
know, more
More
drastic
worse
illnesses.
consequences. Well,
So
I look at music as an intangible. It's something that's not seen in the physical world. There are notes floating in the ethereal energy. It's almost a spiritual kind of level, another level. And I think as artists, even painters, or they see taking something that's not on a canvas, a blank canvas, which is what we do. And we take these intangibles that we hear, that we have the ability as a gift to hear, and we're able to channel it into the physical world through our bodies, through an instrument, whatever instrument we choose that we're able to do that with. And I think our work is that we're constantly trying to perfect our instruments so that we can communicate what comes through us as best we can without diluting it with our thoughts and our own personal judgments and views of it. I think
right,
music is a pure language. In Sufism, they said first there was silence, then there was music, then there was the word. And I think music is close to God in a way because it's a language that the average person can't do what we do. And I think we're a gift to humanity in the sense that we're able to give when they're get home from work 9 to 5 grind sitting in traffic all day, and they get home to their house, they can put on the music and go to another realm and takes them away. And that's the gift that we as artists are able to give people, and I think it's a great gift to have.
for sure, 100%. Guy Barbier was a great composer, classical music composer. He wrote the Gulliver's Travels,
Yeah,
and I went to visit him in Florida when I was playing in New York some acid jazz band, and he came and sat in. He was like 80 something years old. That
wow.
was amazing. And he told me this. He said, everything in life is frequency.
Yeah,
It's a vibration at a
vibration.
certain frequency.
Yeah,
And that's all that music is. And
that's it.
music is just manifesting a form of energy that anyone can respond to.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. I always thought, music, you have happy music, you have sad music, you have everything in. You have angry music.
yeah,
I never thought of it in terms of like, this is just,
a
you're putting out
vibration.
some frequency,
Right.
a vibration of energy, and people will receive it.
Yeah, and
And
then some people are responsive to certain kinds of vibration. That's why some people like country, some people like blues or rock, because that frequency that it vibrates within them and resonates with them, and that's why they're drawn to that kind of music.
yeah, I mean,
Part of it.
to some extent, I believe that there are other conditioning that
Yeah,
will
of
make,
course.
you know, manufacture your taste or not. I'm not
Culture.
sure. But I think that notwithstanding what genre of music,
Yeah.
a note is a note. It's
Of
a form of
vibration.
energy at a certain frequency, a
Right.
number of hertz,
Right.
440 for A,
Mhm.
and that just resonates because
Yeah.
we are that. We are
Yeah.
made of that as well. I had this girlfriend when I was in early years in college, this German girl, and she was an
Yeah.
opera singer.
Oh.
And I was, stunned because first of all, I know nothing about classical music, but that's not the point. The point is, I said to her, "How do you know when when you're belting out that note?
Right.
How do you know it's the right note? You know?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, it's like someone pushes on my skull, and each note has its own spot,
Huh.
and I feel a pressure at some part of my skull on my head. That's when I know I'm spot on that note."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there was
Mhm.
a physical reaction in her body when
Right.
she would vibrate the
Yeah.
exact frequency, right?
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with that. I thought, wow, this is amazing. That means that when we play, we're doing something else. We're not just like giving
Right.
out notes and making chords and all that other
Yeah.
stuff. We're doing something on on an invisible level,
Yeah. On a
ethereal.
vibration.
Yeah, so people
Yeah.
would say ethereal or non-material level,
Yeah.
spiritual level, maybe.
Yeah. Of course.
So
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
I think McLaughlin opened that up for me. He was into Sri Shimnoy back in the 70s, and I became a disciple. And I used to wear all white, play white Les Paul, and I was very into all that
Okay.
meditation and all that kind of stuff. So for me, music is always, again, it's always been about vibration and frequency. And just like people, you connect with maybe the love of your life or your family you're drawn to, I think, from frequency through each lifetime. And then even our meeting was kind of funny in a way because we had a person in common here. You're in France and I'm in America, and there was somebody that we both know that through that vibration, I mean,
Yep.
it's with people too, and that's why we're talking. And I'm hoping that the energy from all these series that I'm giving, people don't just listen to the words, but they feel the energy of the artists, and then they understand, because
Yeah.
these kinds of conversations is what these guys sitting in a room by themselves don't have a clue about. And this is going to show them there's a human and a spiritual part of music that they're not even exploring, or this will show that, make them aware of it in case they want to go and explore it. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, hopefully we could plant seeds for, something deeper and more profound to happen down the
Right.
road.
Yeah.
And if anything, I hope that people that will take the time to go check out my compositions and my various
Hmm.
bands will get, to feel things
Right.
maybe and go beyond the aspects, the format, because
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah. The
format.
technical and the
Yeah,
guitar. Yeah.
and just dig really
Yeah.
into the sound.
Well, when
And
you listen to a symphony, you don't sit there going, "Oh, that violin number two sounds awful," or that,
no, no,
don't
that's
shouldn't
right.
do that to any music. It's
No,
just
no,
listen to it.
just take it in. And it's
Yeah.
tough for a musician. I don't know about you, but for me, it's very difficult to not have any kind of, um, analytical
Opinion.
brain when I'm listening to music. I hear
Yeah.
the groove, I hear the time signature, I hear,
Mhm.
he's doing this. What chord
Yeah.
is that? Oh, he's doing that chord, and so I have to make a personal effort to not analyze
Right.
what's happening and just take
Well,
it in.
that's the difference between school players like you and players like me that just are self-taught, is we don't have all that other stuff in our head that makes us think like that. For me, I don't even think of that stuff because I don't understand it. I wouldn't
Interesting.
know that. I don't know if they're playing that chord or if they're in
Yeah.
that particular scale. but I can sit in and play with them like as if I did because I have an instinctive ear. So I can sit in and play with anybody. But I don't have that analytical thing where I think because I don't have the theory and that's part of my makeup, you know?
Interesting. Wow. Okay. See, we're all different like that. But
Yeah.
for me, when I hear something that I like, especially, I want to know,
Yeah.
I want to get into the head of the guy that did it and like figure out, how it's like mathematics, it's
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
my math brain kicks in and I want to know what's
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I've learned to turn that off so I can really enjoy music for what it is, and then maybe at another stage
But it's
I
good. It's
begin
good
to
for you because you're a producer. You need to have that as a tool for your
right,
producer. So
right.
basically, it's like being a teacher or a policeman. When you get home, you got to turn that off and just and not be a teacher to your rest of your family members or
Right.
you know. So for you, it's a discipline. You have to kind of I'm just going to listen, and then when you're producing, yeah, you're listening, but you like you said, you want to make it fit like a glove to that person. So you're
Yeah.
going, well, he's doing this chord. What if I take that chord out because it does, and it'll create this other feel, or I'll put change the rhythm here, or, you know.
Yeah, and also the sound. I'm like very, very anal about sound and
Yeah.
sound overall. What's the word? Beauty, maybe.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
The beauty of sound. And it could be a lo-fi sound. It doesn't have to be all polished. But I'm just saying that the overall picture of a song, the what I call the soundscape,
Yeah.
has to be to me very attractive. It has to be like drop dead gorgeous.
Well,
Whatever
if
the
you,
aesthetics.
to your point, if you listen to my last single, Frequency of Love, to me, it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever written. It's only two chords.
Oh wow, congrats.
Only
Yep.
two chords, and I wrote that song in Live Love as like you did for My Love That's in My Life. I wrote those for her, and
Nice.
at the end of the official video, it actually shows us holding hands at the end. But uh, that song to me, when I listen to it, I don't listen to it like, oh, I'm gonna listen to a song I wrote. I listen to it and I love the journey it takes me on. It's just really beautiful. Two chords. I love the melody. Everything flows perfect, has a perfect mix. All the ear candy is in the right spot. It's the perfect song, you know.
Nice.
But I know what you're saying. There's Dean Brown, one of the requirements he said as a producer when we worked together, he goes, it has to feel good and it has to be beautiful.
Right. There you go.
That's all
Yeah.
he said. Other than that,
A
that's
lot
it.
of respect for Dean, man. Rest
Yeah.
in peace. Amazing player.
Oh,
What he did, the Brecker Brothers and stuff. That was like,
yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
phenomenal,
Well,
phenomenal player.
funny story. I hadn't really heard of him. And it's funny because Marcus Miller, the bass player, hadn't heard of him until mid 90s either. But
Oh,
he was Roberta Flack's music director. He's been on 250 plus albums, all this stuff.
yeah.
The funny thing is when I was told about him by my sound engineer, I found out he lived in San Diego. I called him and we met at a hotel lobby and I explained everything. I had everything on paper, what I want, sound I want, everything. And so when we went to the studio and recorded, he was used to doing a lot of production for like maybe somebody who's just doing it as a hobby and a lot of that because he's a
Okay.
producer, taking money. He was a teacher too.
Right.
So he called me the night after the first session, and I picked him up at his home, and we drove back and forth all the time to the studio, and so that's how we got to know each other. But he called me that night and he says, James, he goes, I didn't realize you guys are really good. He goes, would you mind if I played on the album? I go, yeah, I didn't know who he was, but I looked him up on Wikipedia and I go, oh, Dean Brown.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And playing with, Cobham and all this. And so he says, well, look, I'll play all the rhythm. You just play the melodies and solo. And I said, okay. And so, but he does solo on Spanish Seas at the end with acoustic guitar. But it was hard to record him because he grunts and moans when he plays.
Oh,
If you ever
wow.
seen him on stage, he's always moving around and
Yeah, yeah. High energy, for
he
sure.
makes noise. He's like, so we had to do a couple takes. I go, dude, it sounds like you're chewing on chicken. Just, play the guitar stuff. I don't want, sounds like you're taking a crap in the bathroom, you're
Oh, no.
grunting.
That's funny.
But no, it was great. And for me, that was a validation for me in my life because I look at a lot of us musicians, we're just a boat floating in the ocean. We don't know where we are in the scheme of things. We don't have we're not a brand name like Al Di Meola or McLaughlin or Holdsworth. We're just a musician playing. And all of a sudden, he validated where I was playing, especially when we were driving home one day. And no, it was a couple months after we finished the album. And we always text each other playing because we're both into tennis. He said, James, what were those songs you were playing while I was mixing the album? Because I would be in the other room playing. I go, oh, they're just some fusion songs when I wrote 94 and stuff I've been playing. He goes, you should record those. Those are beautiful. And I go, yeah, I'd love to. And he goes, I'd love to, work on it with you. And I go, oh, okay. And I go, I want to give that 70s feel. And we talked about, he goes, well, let me call you tonight, see if I have a couple players that I think would be perfect. And he called me that night and said, Gary Husband and, Hadrian Farad are interested. And I was like, oh, great. Well, to me, that was like validation because these guys are going to be putting their name on my music.
Right, right. It's a good point, for sure.
And I was like, wow, he wants to record another album with me and he wants to be fusion. And it just really, he was so supportive of me. He really gave me not just my music voice, but he validated who I am as a musician. And I'll always be thankful. I keep his picture behind me, as you can see by my guitar, by the records.
Right, right.
And we had a very symbiotic relationship. It was very amazing. And I always think about him. He's an amazing guy. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I'm really glad that we met,
Yes, pleasure, James. Absolutely.
And maybe we'll do something together sometime too. Who knows?
I would love that. It would be fun, for sure.
Yeah. And I just got a home studio called the Lava Studio. It's the latest in technology. It's the largest Kickstarter funded product in history. And it's everything. You don't have to have software or anything for computers. Everything is in a box, like a giant iPhone. And you can do anything you can do on a Logic or any kind of home recording on this box. And I'm working with it because I got to start doing some home stuff too,
Interesting. Wow, very cool.
Yeah. So again, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Pleasure. Thank you, James.